Hello everybody, my name is Tommy and welcome to Aero Workshop. Today I'm finally getting back to do the finishing touches on the cabinet build for to go behind my spindle moulder. So if you haven't been following along with this build, I have created a playlist which I will leave a link to in the description of this video, and that includes making the cabinet itself, making the doors, how to hang the doors, etc. So you can go back and check all that out. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is actually undoing some of the work that I've already done. So I'm going to remove the doors and take the back out of the unit so that I can do the last few things I need to do to the unit before I start to apply a finish. Okay, with the doors and the back now removed, I have positioned the unit where it's going to be on the wall behind the spindle moulder. Now I just have it sitting on two angle brackets which I have screwed to the wall, and I just have a prop down to the top of the spindle moulder to hold the top in. The reason I'm doing this is because this wall is not level and I want to be able to scribe the unit to be a tight fit to the wall so that the unit is level when it's tight to the wall. So I'll bring this in closer and I'll give you a look at what I'm doing. Okay, when I put the unit up against the wall and I put the level on it, I could see that it was out by nearly a half an inch or 12.5 millimeters, thereabouts. So what I done was I got a cut off of 1/2 inch plywood and I pushed it down the back of the unit on top of the angle bracket, which brought it out by a 1/2 inch at the bottom but left it tight at the top, and that made it perfectly level on the front edge. So I then used another piece of plywood the same thickness, and I just used that as a little spacer block to run my pencil down along the side of the unit, keeping the block up against the wall, and mark a line. Now I can use that line then to cut the back of the unit with the jigsaw so that it'll be a perfect fit to the wall. I also done the other side, one is at it, but it's only 1/4 inch on the other side. So next up is take it all back down and cut those pieces off using the jigsaw. So as you can see now, with those now cut, the cabinet is a tight fit to the wall the whole way down, and it is perfectly level on the front edge. So that's how I scribe units to the wall, and that's why I left that 20 millimeters of a gap at the back of the unit when I was making it to allow for such cuts, so you won't be interfering with the shelves or the back. Okay, the next thing I want to do is add a little detail to the top of the cabinet. It's like a little cornice. Now this is just a little bit of 40 by 20 with a little round over on the bottom edge, and I'm going to let it stand proud 10 millimeter of the unit on the front and both ends. So it's just a case of getting the measurements, putting 10 mil on and cutting them at 45 degrees on the miter saw. Okay, I have those now cut, but I'm actually not going to put them onto the cabinet yet, because if I do, they will actually cover the groove that allows the back to slide back into the cabinet. So I won't put them on until I have the finish applied to the cabinet and the doors. So now I'm moving on to what everyone loves doing in the workshop, and that's giving this its final sand before I start to apply a finish. Now, I have already sanded this up to 120 when I was making the unit and the doors and things. So I'm just going to give it a light pass with a 220 disc on the sander, just to knock any little marks and fingerprints that have been on it since I've been handling it and hanging the doors. And I will also be denibbing the edges and any little fray that's on the edges using one of these double-sided sanding pads. Now, these are very handy to have in the workshop because they'll get so many different places and they do the job very quickly. So that's what I'm going to be doing now. Okay, with the sanding now completed, it's time to move on to applying a finish. Now, there's plenty of different types of finish you could apply to this, but what I'm going to use is the two-system spray-on lacquer method, which is a coat of base coat, a light sanding, and then a coat of lacquer. Now, the one thing I did want to cover before I started the spray was I needed to spray some little timber knobs to go on the doors. Now, these can be a little bit tricky to spray or even do by hand. So what I do is I just get a scrap piece of wood and I drive 2 screws through that piece and I just screw on the knobs onto the screws like that. And then I'm able to hold that to spray the knob all around, or if you're using a brush or whatever, you're not holding the knob in your hand. So just a quick little tip as to how to hold the knobs for your doors if you're wanting to apply a finish to them. So let's start to spray. Okay, now that I have everything sprayed up, it's time to start to reassemble the cabinet. So first up is reinstall the back. Okay, next up I want to install the little bit of cornice that I made for this. So as I said when I made this, this is 40mm wide and I wanted to overhang the unit by 10mm. So I have marked in 30mm on the top of the unit, which will just help me to line those up and get them exactly the angle that I want them at. So I'm just going to bore a few holes in each of the pieces and then screw them in place. So one of the last things I want to do before I actually put the cabinet on the wall is just to cut a couple of spacers to pack out the back of the unit, because the unit is standing off the wall a little bit on the rail, but on both sides are tight because, like I said, I recessed the back in. So just to do that, straight edge across, and then I just cut a couple of pieces of MDF on the bandsaw to be a snug fit on both sides like that, and I'm just going to put one screw in those just so that they won't be falling, and then I can bore my two holes through the cleat in the back of the unit, offer it up to the wall, mark the wall, and then bore some rawl plugs and screw the unit in place. Okay, with the cabinet now firmly secured to the wall, I can now rehang the doors. Okay, with the doors now rehung, I went ahead and I added the two knobs, and I also added two little magnetic catches to keep the doors closed. So now I have some place at least to store all the bits and pieces belonging to my spindle moulder and keeping them close at hand. So that's going to be it for this video. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, maybe you consider giving it a thumbs up. So all that's left for me to say is thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Good luck.